Welcome to today's show. My name is John. As always, you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcast, formerly known as iTunes, or you can follow the links to social media in the podcast show notes. So please subscribe when you're finished listening. You can also go to snarkymoviereviews.com to read notes, bios, and other random movie thoughts. Today's movie is The Mummy's Curse, 1944. This is the third time that Lon Chaney Jr. played the Mummy. I wanted to pan this movie like the rest of the Mummy series, but I found this one to be vastly superior to the other three. With limited star power, the acting was still very solid. I thought moving the Mummy from a swamp in Massachusetts to Louisiana would be ridiculous, but the folklore was woven into the story very well. With that said, any of you that have been listening for a while know that English is not my native tongue. Since I was raised in a third world country known as Mississippi, I'm going to apologize in advance for the Cajun, French Canadian, and French words that this review requires me to pronounce. Sorry about that. Actors.
Right, and I'm a Shakespearean actor.
Lon Chaney Jr. returned for the third time as the Mummy, or Carus. Chaney was covered in Episode 5 of Mice and Men, 1939. Virginia Christine played Princess Ananka, and she looked great. I will never look at Mrs. Olson, the coffee lady, the same way again. Christine was first covered in Episode 12, Billy the Kid vs. Dracula, 1966. Of course, appearing in uncredited clips were James Crane as the Pharaoh, Boris Karloff as Carus, or the Mummy, and Tom Tyler as Carus, or the Mummy, from The Mummy, 1932, The Mummy's Hand, 1940, The Mummy's Tomb, 1942, and The Mummy's Ghost, 1944. Other than the above, there was not a lot of star power in this movie. I will give a few brief mentions. Peter Coe did a great job as Dr. Ilzor Zandab from the Scripps Museum and Secret Priest of Arkham. Coe was born in Yugoslavia on Armistice Day, the same day the country was created. He was trained in acting at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in England. This dark-skinned actor played many ethnic roles in movies and television, including American Indians. Of his 84 credits, he is best known for House of Frankenstein, 1944, The Mummy's Curse, 1944, Sands of Iwo Jima, 1949, and Road to Bali, 1952. Coe was a good friend and drinking buddy of director Edward D. Wood, Jr. It was planned that Coe would star in a Wood film about the later life of Bela Lugosi. However, this film was never made, as evicted director Wood died while living in the home of Coe. Coe died in 1993. Kay Harding played Betty Walsh, niece to the swamp contractor and eye candy. Harding was born in Oklahoma in 1924. She was in a total of 7 movies, with the most noted being The Scarlet Claw, 1944, The Mummy's Curse, 1944, Weird Woman, 1944, and The Woman in Green, 1945. Harding died in 1984 at the age of 60. Dennis Moore played the Scripps Museum archaeologist Dr. James Halsey. Moore was born in Texas in 1908. He became interested in movies while working as an usher. This was followed by local and regional theater. Moore began films in 1932. He did quite well in westerns, serials, and B-movies. Moore's most successful period was during World War II, when most of the better actors were away at the war. Moore is best known for The Dawn Riders, 1935, Black Legion, 1937, East Side Kids, 1940, Raiders of Ghost City, 1944, Voodoo Man, 1944, The Purple Monster Strikes, 1945, The Gay Ranchero, 1948, I Died 1,000 Times, 1955, and The Harder They Fall, 1956. Moore retired in 1961 to run a gift shop in Big Bear Lake, California. He died there in 1964. Martin Kozlek played the role of Raghib, swamp worker and trainee priest of Arkham. Kozlek was born in 1904 in a part of Germany that is now part of Poland. Kozlek left Germany just ahead of the Gestapo and a death sentence. He is known for Foreign Correspondent, 1940, Pursuit to Algiers, 1945, She-Wolf of London, 1946, and The Flesh Eater, 1964. However, his real career was playing the Nazis he hated. However, he never resented this typecasting like many other German refugees. According to IMDb.com, one critic referred to him as the definitive Nazi swine. He eventually became a famous painter before he died in 1994. Kurt Katch played the role of Cajun Joe. Katch was born in the Russian Empire in 1896 in what is now Belarus. He studied acting under Max Reinhardt in Vienna. When those damn Nazis started messing everything up, Katch, being Jewish, left for America. Katch worked in Yiddish theater and eventually became a character actor in the 1940s and 50s. In spite of a bald head, he was quite successful, especially in horror roles. His best-known movies are Watch on the Rhine, 1943, The Mummy's Curse, 1944, Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves, 1944, and Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy, 1955. Katch died in 1958. Napoleon Simpson played the role of Gooby. Simpson was an African-American actor that was active from 1939 to 1963, having a total of 28 movies and television credits. He generally had minor supporting or extra roles. Simpson was born in Illinois in 1902. He is known for Midnight Shadow, 1939, Yankee Doodle Dandy, 1942, The Mummy's Curse, 1944, and Jungle Queen, 1945. Simpson died in 1967. Story.
Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
The movie begins at the tavern of Tante Bertie, Ann Cody, providing entertainment to swamp workers badly in need of diversions. Cajun Joe, Kurt Katch, flirts with Tante in front of her husband, but it's all in good fun. Cajun Joe says when he gets paid for the swamp clearing he is doing, he will buy a boat and fish Barataria Bay, the historic location of pirate Jean Lafitte. Achilles, Charles Stevens, says the work is over because there's a mummy and a princess that walks when the moon is high. Then Achilles says, the loup-garous, they don't want no more digging in the swamp. A loup-garou is a Creole word for a creature that sheds his skin and flies at night in the swamp as a fireball or a bird with the goal of killing children. Now, I've heard my mother speak often of fireballs rolling up hills at night, and I just figured it was the effect of white lightning. Drinking white lightning. Now, all of my life, I have believed that a loup-garou and a loup-garou were the same thing, a Canadian werewolf. Since the Cajuns originated in French Canada, this mix-up made perfect sense to me. While we are on the subject, to trap a Canadian werewolf, you have to nail a colander to the outside wall of your cabin. The werewolf will begin counting the holes and can be captured while he is distracted. A loup-garou and a loup-garou should never be confused with the Honey Island swamp monster, whose Cajun name is something like Partouffe or covered with moss. The Honey Island swamp monster is a Sasquatch, or possibly, as one version asserts, the descendant of circus chimps from a train wreck that interbred with alligators. Many of the men are scared, but Cajun Joe says it has been 25 years since the mummy took the girl into the swamp.
This place, she's a haunt.
Oh, wait, stop. You listen to me. I know better from all of you. I be pearl fishing this place for over 30 years. Long ago, there was a mommy, like you say, and he take a girl in the swamp. But that was 25 years past.
Pat Walsh, Addison Reed, the supervisor of the swamp draining project, does not want to hear any excuses about a monster. He wants the work done. Rahib, Martin Kozlek, goads Achilles into asking what has become of Antoine, who has been missing since night.
These men are convinced that the swamps have got a curse on them.
Don't give me any of that childish business, Hill. You're the foreman around here. Get those men back to work.
Ask him where Antoine is.
You think it's childish business? Everybody knows the place is haunted. Antoine, he disappeared last night.
Maybe he went to Tante Bertie's cafe and got drunk.
No, he no go to Tante Bert. He stay on the job. Everybody know that work on the swamp. He catch hard luck on his family and children's children.
Walsh forces the men back to work just as Dr. James Halsey, Dennis Moore, and his colleague, Dr. Izor Zandob, Peter Coe from the Scripps Museum, show up.
I'm looking for a Mr. Walsh.
That's me.
My name is Halsey, Dr. James Halsey from the Scripps Museum.
All right.
This is my colleague and associate, Dr. Ilzor Zandob.
The two archaeologists have authority to recover the mummies of Kyrus, Lon Chaney Jr., and Ananka, Virginia Christine. Walsh doesn't want the men around, but they are welcomed by his lovely assistant and niece, Betty Walsh, Kay Harding. Halsey says the mummy carried the girl into the swamp at this location, so that has changed from the previous movie. Gooby, Napoleon Simpson, comes in and reports that Antoine has been murdered and the workers are about to walk off.
Something terrible done happened.
Well, what is it now, Goody?
Antoine, they just find him dead.
What?
At the edge of the pit on the other side of the swamp.
These unnecessary accidents.
Oh, no, sir. He was killed.
What do you mean?
Walsh sends Goby to Tonti's to find Cajun Joe. They also call Dr. Cooper Holmes Herbert. Gooby finds Cajun Joe in the bar and says, "Find a lizard on your grave, ain't no charm your life can save." Then he tells that Antoine has been stabbed in the back. Dr. Cooper says he has been dead about 24 hours. Gooby yells, "The devil is on the loose." Halsey finds an impression in the ground that looks like the body of a man. Halsey says it is a hole for a mummy's body that was opened by the bulldozer. Gooby yells, "The devil's on the loose and he's dancing with the mummy." They find a piece of the mummy's wrapping in the hole.
What does that look like?
Looks like a hole in the ground.
Oh, no. Come down here and take a better look.
Hey, looks like the imprint of a man's body. A big man, too.
Not an ordinary man's body, Mr. Walsh. Unless I'm mistaken, a mummy was buried here until the bulldozer uncovered it. Oh, Wilzor, I want you to see this. What do you think that is?
Might be part of a wrapping from a mummy. But it will take a full microscopic test to make certain.
The devil's on the loose and he's dancing with the mummy.
See what I told you, Joe? The loup-garou is plenty mad. Only crazy people dig in the swamp.
He's all right.
Later that night, Dr. Zandab rows a boat out into the swamp and meets Raghib, who calls him Master.
"'Tis you, Ragab.
Yes, Master.
The hours of the night are few. Lead the way quickly."
Damn, the guy wearing a fez in a mummy movie is the bad guy? Raghib takes him to the abandoned monastery on a hill in the swamp. Both of these things are pretty rare in swamps. Raghib says he killed the men that helped him bring the sarcophagus to the monastery. The two go into the monastery and Kyrus is in his box. Dr. Zandab robes up and puts on the sacred medallion. Raghib opens the sarcophagus to reveal Kyrus. Dr. Zandab brews 3 tanna leaves and explains the job to Raghib. Then they use the smoking cauldron to show the older clips featuring Pharaoh, James Crane, Mummy, Boris Karloff, and Kyrus and the Mummy, Tom Tyler. Dr. Zandab gives the liquid to Kyrus. The mummy acts like he's had a 9-leaf dose. Just as the mummy gets up, Michael, the caretaker of the monastery, comes in and demands they leave. He also says he found the murdered men. The mummy grabs him and chokes him out. Near the end of the workday, a bulldozer scrapes the swamp. Shortly after, a shrouded hand rises. Slowly, the mud-covered Ananka rises and struggles for freedom. It is very well done, and it is even a creepy scene. The sun gives her power. She staggers blindly through the swamp until finally she walks into the water, almost as if being baptized. What is most amazing about this is that she comes out with a pretty clean dress and her hair restyled. Good water. Cajun Joe is walking through the swamp and he sees the lovely Ananka walking around. She cannot talk, so he covers her and takes her to Tonti's place.
Hey. No. I no see you before. What your name? Where you come from? Are you wet? You better take my coat.
Raghib sees them together but hides. The only thing Ananka says is Kyrus. Kyrus. Kyrus.
Kyrus.
Cajun Joe takes her to the side door to Tonti's bedroom. Tonti sends Cajun Joe to get the doctor. Raghib reports about Ananka, and after 9 tanna leaves, the mummy heads out after his princess.
The hour has come, Kyrus. The moment for which you have waited so long. Ragab has seen your bride, Princess Ananka, taken away. Now you shall go to take her. You know your destination. Drink.
The mummy breaks into the bedroom and Ananka runs away. The mummy kills Tante. Ananka runs into the swamp, followed by the mummy. She passes out by the road, but Betty and Halsey drive by and pick her up. They get away just inches ahead of the mummy. Back at Tante's, they find the mold marks on her neck. Back at camp, Dr. Cooper is taking care of Ananka. When she wakes, she speaks perfect English. Good water. Showing the desperate need for volunteers in archaeology, they start Ananka working in the archaeology lab. And she's really good at it.
I love the sun.
Yes, but does it love you that much? Or will you be shining like a boiled crawfish in an hour or two?
I can never get too much sun, Dr. Halsey. I hope you will forgive me, but I've been reading your notes.
Oh, it's just a lot of technical data you probably wouldn't understand.
I do understand, Dr. Halsey. And you are right. These are mummy wrappings, but your notes are not complete.
Well, now that's very interesting.
Here, see for yourself. Notice a coarse material and the number of strands per square inch. This fabric was woven during the dynasty of King Amenophis and worn by Charis, Prince of the Royal House.
Have you studied archaeology?
Archaeology? No, at least I do not remember.
Well, then, how do you know about this cloth and about Charis?
I do not know how.
She identifies the mummy wrapping as to thread count and dynasty. Dr. Zandab shows up and Ananka is drawn to him in a trance-like state. She starts hollering for Charis again.
Charis!
A good shake by Halsey snaps her out of it. That night, Dr. Zandab sends the mummy out to get Ananka. When the mummy gets close, Ananka puts on her silk robe and leaves the tent she and Betty share. She runs from the mummy into the tent of Dr. Cooper. She tells the doctor that Charis is coming for her. He thinks she's nuts. The mummy comes into the tent and the doctor tries to hit him with a rattan chair. The mummy finishes them off while Ananka escapes. Walsh tries to blame everything on Halsey. Halsey has figured out that the mummy shows up everywhere Ananka goes. The men decide to go on a night hunt for the mummy. Is that a good idea? And after they don't find anything, they decide to split up. No, stay together. Cajun Joe heads out in a rowboat and finds Ananka wandering through the swamp. The mummy shows up, and after taking 2 barrel blasts from a shotgun, the mummy kills Cajun Joe. Ananka makes it back to the tent where she and Betty have been staying. Raghib comes into camp, and it's not long until the mummy makes it there as well. The mummy grabs Ananka and heads out. Pretending to help, Raghib takes Betty into the swamp. Gooby and Halsey find Betty's torn down tent. After finding mummy wrappings, Halsey starts trailing the mummy.
I'm going to follow those tracks. You wake up Mr. Walsh and tell him.
Gooby wakes Walsh, saying, "The devil's on the loose and he's dancing with the mummy."
Master Walsh! Master Walsh! Get out! Get out!
What's the matter? What's the matter, Gooby?
The mummy's on the loose. He's dancing with the devil.
What are you talking about?
They done broken Miss Betty's tent and carried her away.
The mummy takes Ananka to the monastery where Dr. Zandab is waiting with the tea. Dr. Zandab sticks to the plan this time and gives Ananka the Tana juice.
Our prayers to the mighty Amon-Ra have been answered, Charis. The Princess Ananka shall be lifted from her mortal state, and sealed in this case, shall be returned with you to Egypt, there to be embraced by the sands of the past.
Raghib takes Betty up to the monastery as well, and he is just about to assault her, but Dr. Zandab stops him.
The curse of Amon-Ra upon you, Ragab.
Dr. Zandab, those robes, you're...
The high priest of Arkham. Your tongue shall be torn from your mouth for the vows you have sworn to, falsely.
Master, I am but flesh and blood.
You have betrayed your trust. The secret of Charis and his bride, Princess Ananka, cannot be preserved unless this girl dies.
Dr. Zandab wants Betty to die, and Raghib kills him by stabbing him in the back. Halsey shows up, and Raghib tries to stab him, but Halsey was trained at the Indiana Jones Commando School for Archaeologists. Raghib is not out, and gets up and attacks again. The mummy slowly joins the fight. He stops Raghib from killing Halsey, and Raghib locks himself in a cell. The mummy has no problem breaking in and kills Raghib. The roof of the monastery comes down, killing the mummy. Thank God that mummy is dead. Gooby finds Ananka in her sarcophagus, and she is old and dead.
Now I understand why she knew so much about Caris and the ancient Egyptians.
What are you talking about?
This mummy is the girl we brought to the camp. She's the Princess Ananka.
Sure. And I'm her grandfather.
Halsey says he's going to marry Betty, and teams from the museum will come and dig up Caris.
We'll put a crew of men to work digging Caris out of the rubble, then send them both back to the Scripps Museum.
They ought to put you on display, too. Well, maybe you'll clear out of the swamps now and leave me alone so I can get a little work done.
Oh, I'll get out. But you haven't seen the last of me yet, Mr. Walsh. There's a certain secretary.
You're welcome to her. Go ahead.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Well, as a secretary, you haven't been any use to me since the minute he walked in on us.
World famous short summary. Beautiful women cause conflict at work camp. I have to say there are some fine rowboating skills in this movie. I hope you enjoyed today's show. You can find connections to social media and email at my site at snarkymoviereviews.com. There are links to the podcast show notes as well. Remember, this show is completely free and independent. All that I ask is that you jump over to Apple Podcasts and give me a review. It really helps the show get found. Beware the Moors.